Welcome to Life Her Podcast, the podcast that guides you from the 9-to-5 grind to the freedom of your own path. Discover how to conquer life's challenges while pursuing your passions with unwavering faith. Because being an entrepreneur is not easy. So let's get to it.
Hey everyone, I am Yvette Lloyd, host of Life Her Podcast. We have an amazing Julie with us today, and she's going to talk about the leadership of the holistic approach of business and just being able to focus on yourself a lot more, taking breaks, and just having a healthier lifestyle in a way that you couldn't even imagine. She's going to get very detailed and give you more of everything. So, hey, Julie.
Hey, I love that introduction.
How are
Like, oh,
you?
that sounds good. I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Don't start. Oh my God. So, what's
We're
good,
gonna have
girl?
fun today.
I know. We had fun last time too.
We did.
Yes. So tell me basically, how did you get into just even thinking of approaching people in a holistic way of personal growth and for their business?
I mean, it all came like so organically and naturally. It just kind of like evolved from, um, I mean, my background is in automotive manufacturing, and I did that for 7.5 years. And it was a really like, I mean, the last interview I did with someone else, she's like, "Yeah, it's a very like you could say toxic masculine environment." I'm like, "Yeah, it is." Actually, near where you're at now, because you're in Akron, right?
Right.
I was just over in just south of Indianapolis, so
Okay.
pretty close. I mean,
Yeah.
you grew up in Indiana, so yeah, worked in that industry for a long time, and then it got to a point where I was so sick. Like
Wow.
literally for 6.5 weeks, I could barely eat anything. I could hardly even drink water. Like I probably lost like 20 pounds in 4 weeks and 15 to 20 pounds
Really?
in like 4 or 5 weeks. Yeah, it was so bad. I had no idea what was wrong with me. Like the doctor couldn't figure it out. We're running all of these tests. She was getting ready to send me to specialist, and I actually went on my first like spiritual retreat.
Hmm.
I'd purchased a course months prior, and I couldn't get past like the sixth or seventh day. It was a 30-day program. Couldn't get past like the sixth or seventh day of it because it's like as soon as I would get to work, and as soon because I would do it before work, and as soon as I got into work and I would get into that environment, it's like I would just forget everything that I had, just read or worked through or learned that morning, and everything I was supposed to apply throughout the day was just gone, right?
Right.
So then they came out with this retreat that they were going to be hosting in California, and it was over Memorial Day weekend. So it was going to be an extended weekend. And I was like, okay, that'll be good, right? Like if I can be just completely immersed in like this, whatever this is, I didn't even know how to tell people what it was. I'm like, I don't know what this is. Like, I don't even know myself really what it is that I'm going to do. I'm like, so I don't even know how to tell people. They're like, oh, so you're just like going on vacation? I'm like, yeah. Like I didn't know, like I didn't know what to expect or what it was going to be like. Um and then I basically, like, before I even came back from that, I had made the decision to quit my job, which I'd been with this company for 6.5 years, and I was going to quit my job and sell my house and move to the South and figure out life from there. I thought that I was going to be helping a family member, my aunt, to start a business with like holistic uh, pain medicine, basically. Um, Kind of like the holistic version of Bengay, if you will.
Right.
And I was, she was like, it's organic and da da da, and she would send me stuff to try and all this stuff, and I'm like, okay, this is like a really, really like you're onto something here. Like, let's do this as a business, right? That never happened. Like, still to this day, that was in
Really?
2019. Yeah, and it's still just I don't think it was the right path. But in
Okay.
that time, I just decided to dive into my own personal like self development, spiritual development, and started going down all of these rabbit holes and like learning all of these things about energy and energy work and energy healing and just all the things, right? Like I'm just consuming all this stuff and working with different coaches and doing different programs and just And then in 2022, my best friend and I, who I met in the automotive industry, we decide like, hey, why don't we take what we loved and learned about the industry, like the lean manufacturing processes, how to make people efficient, streamline budgeting, like all of these practical business tools and systems, take those. And then the thing that we didn't like that was really shitty in the industry was leadership. Like it just didn't exist for the most part. I mean,
Wow.
I was lucky to have a couple of really good mentors. Actually, by a couple, I mean one. I had like one really good mentor.
Uh-huh.
and um and I used to joke that he was like my work dad, but so we're like, let's take the things that we loved and the thing that we hated, like the leadership was terrible. And let's create this approach where we use all of these tools that we've gained from our personal spiritual growth and development and like what we're going down, this path that we're going down. And let's do that. Like let's just help people, right? Because
Right.
you learn that like energy is everything, right? You've
Yes.
heard this like your whole life, right? Energy is literally everything. So if energy is everything, like your business is energy, it is consciousness. And if you approach your business as like you're approaching a business partner or you're approaching another person, right? Like if you
Mhm.
walk into a room and the energy's off, someone just had a fight, like you start to close down, right? Like you can feel that. You're like, ooh, like I gotta get out of here, right?
Yes.
And the adverse is true. If you walk into somewhere that's a very like nice, open, harmonious, like loving environment, you feel that too. So it's like if more people understood energy within themselves and how they're feeling and what they're thinking and how they're approaching their life and then applied this to business
Oh
and
God.
leadership, it's a win-win, right? Like cuz you get to work on yourself. And I think for so long in business and in literally, let's just say like in our culture in the US and most countries as a whole, like we take and we silo everything and we compartmentalize everything. You know, as a kid, you're always told, like when you're playing a sport, like, oh, leave it on the field. Like, you don't leave it on the field. Like,
Yes.
if you
Seriously.
want to fight with your spouse and then you go to work, right? And you have an annoying coworker or you have like a boss that's down your throat, like you're already on edge and agitated. You're not leaving your home life at home. Like that's still there at the forefront. Same thing
Mhm.
with like when you're at work and you have combative environments and situations, you don't just leave it at work. Like you take it home with you, right? And so
Yes.
so many people don't make that connection then that like all of the stuff that's happened to us all along the way is what we're taking with us into our business, right, wrong,
Yeah.
or indifferent, good or bad. Like we're still taking it all with us.
Yes. And it affects us a lot, like personally, on so many levels, and to a point it'll consume us, and our health will start to deteriorate to a point where we will develop some sort of sickness, and we be like, oh my God, like why am I sick, why is this happening to me, and everything. It's because we're taking in so much and we're not reflecting on it for us to remove it. And so when it continues to develop constantly on a daily basis, the minute by the hour, by the second, it's like, man, I'm really killing myself, and it's a harsh reality that we are doing that all the time when okay, we understand you're a business owner, we understand you're making money. However, do you understand your well-being, your self-care? So I
Yeah, exactly.
yes.
And I
So it's
love that you're bringing this tie-in because I literally have this like with a personal family situation right now.
right.
I just found out that someone in my family has breast cancer,
Oh
and
wow.
I'm just like the but then I'm looking over the past like 5, 10, maybe longer years, and it's like the health issues just keep building up and building up for this person. Like broke their back twice. had heart issues, different things that they were in the hospital twice, had gastrointestinal issues, several, different issues,
Mhm.
instances. So it's like over the last like 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe even 10 years, it's been like issue after issue after issue after issue. And
Wow.
whenever we've come together, and I just spoke to them yesterday actually, and they made the comment, "Well, yeah, I'm a negative person," and I'm like, I want so badly to be like,
One.
that negativity that you're holding on to is the thing that is keeping you sick. It's the thing that keeps causing you to have these diseases and these illnesses and these whatever, right? Because your body's holding on to all of this shit and
Yeah.
you're not like properly letting it go. So it's been a really great lesson for me of like stay in your lane because
Yeah.
as much as you love them and you want to fucking fix them and help them, I'm like, I know all of these things that could help you like right now, right? And I'm like, but it's not my fight, right?
Yeah.
It's not my battle. And but then on the flip side, like I get to do that in business every day, teaching people about like, well, knowing your body, understanding your body. I just had to do this myself in my own business, right? Like I was working so much that I was like, is this even what I want to do? And I
Mm.
was seriously starting to question it. And I was like, hold on, like, okay, let's just take a minute, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to take the next week. I'm going to finish this week out, honor all the commitments that I have. But then next week, I'm just going to take the week off and I'm really going to feel into like what serves me and how do I best get to serve the business and how do I best get to show up in my business
Yeah.
and show up like because if you can't show up for yourself, you can't show up for your clients, like you can't show up for the people that you're serving.
That's so
And so
true.
I really got to take a look at like take some downtime, do things that fill you back up, speaking of self-care, right? But
Yes.
also then like looking at like I'm looking at my human design and I'm a projector. Projectors need a pretty decent amount of rest.
Yes.
And it's insane because like my business partner is a manifester and we just don't like operate the same way, right? Like she can be very, very like when she's on a streak, like she is on. And then I'm like working through this, okay, like I'm feeling guilty because she's putting in like 150 and I'm like, we're rocking a 70%, right? Like, but it's also this learning not to compare like myself to her because our design types are completely different. And as long as I'm taking care of myself and showing up in the way that I need to for me, then I get to show up more fully in the business. And ever since I took that week off and I restructured what my days look like and the hours that I'm working and the number of days a week that I'm working, and it's been like smooth sailing. And it's been like just so amazing. And I'm showing up and doing more things. Like this is my second podcast interview in a few days. And these are the types of things that I love to do is I love to be able to talk and to educate and to teach and also interview people like, that's how we met.
Yeah.
Um, but it's really taking that time to take a step back and create that space for yourself and learn like what you really, really need for you. And it's interesting because like if you're just coming out of like a corporate setting or that environment and you're transitioning into opening your own business or being an entrepreneur, right? And doing that, like the shift in identity that you have to make from one to the other is astronomical.
Yes, it is. It really is. So one of the things that I would like to know is because you know you do all of this to help your clients. So how do you guide entrepreneurs into alignment with their business and their goals of whatever, like as far as their personal values and spiritual growth? Because everybody value it differently. So you have to strategize like a lot.
So one of the things is like when we're telling people like how we operate and how we work with people, we're like, well, it's very intuitive based, right? Because everyone's at a different level, right? It's kind of like if you look at a trainer training someone in the gym. You might have someone that's getting ready to do some type of like serious competition, and what working with them looks like is going to be hugely different than someone who's never stepped foot in a gym. So it's kind of that same approach, right? It's like, how wide and how deep do you want to go? But
Mm,
it's also like, let's take a look at the goals and let's take a look at really where you're at and what you're wanting to accomplish. And then let's figure out, like, is that really in alignment with you? Because so much of us, like, how much do you hear out there about like work with this coach and make 100K a month or your first 10K month, right?
yeah.
Like, these are we always hear about these numbers, right?
Yeah.
So it's a really fun thing that we like to do with clients is to say, okay, like, what's your number really at? Like, if it, whether it's an hourly rate or how much you want to make a year, what's really in alignment with your soul? What's really in alignment with your body? And so we do these embodiment exercises with them to get them ground into their body. And because your body doesn't lie, right? We know that the body doesn't lie because we get sick when we've burnt ourselves out, right? When we're overworked or things like that. Like, we get sick, we get dis-ease, right? Because there's no ease in the body anymore. And the same is true with your business. If you are not in alignment with, we'll call it like your higher self, or with like your path, right? Whatever you want to call it, but like with what God intended for you to do on this planet, if you're not in alignment with that, then you're going to be redirected. But it's also true when it comes to like your pricing and what your offers are, and really what you're trying to do in your business. Let's say that in my head, we'll go with that magic number of $100,000, right? I want to make $10,000 in a month. Okay. What if it's really in alignment for my soul for it to be $35,000 in a month? Some
Mm.
people might shit their pants at that, right? They might be like, "Whoa, whoa, like, I wanted 10, but we've more than tripled this
Yeah,
number,
you
right?"
35? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's really like, but then there's a process to get them there too. There's an energetic like match that has to be done, because like the ego and the identity is like, "Ooh, I was just trying to get to 10, but now you want me to go to 35?" Like, "Ooh, I don't know about that." So there's this alignment work that gets to happen then between like, okay, but it's really like once you get them to feel into their body and tap into their intuition and what that is telling them, and then they feel good, right?
Yeah, they
And
do.
if it's lighting you up and you feel good about it, you're more apt to move in that direction and not have to be moved, if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. It does. And even with you saying like they setting their own limitations, but it's like you letting them know, like, no, you're worth more than that. And that's a lot of like self sabotage that a lot of us do. And we never will get to a point of what we're actually worth when we set ourselves back like that. And that comes from fear, and it comes from us not having that confidence enough. And then we're thinking, like, nobody isn't gonna believe in me like that, So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
so many things that's like going in our mind to a point. It's a blessing to have people like you to even just be like, no, look, this is what it is, this is what it's gonna be. And it make you like reflect, like, Julie might be right. It's right. Like, wait a minute, So it's great that you are even doing that to help own business owners to even see their worth, because we really don't get that much. Like, we get, like you said, like, we have coaches, we have people doing a lot of things, but like the inner reflection of our business matters a lot, and we forget about that, and we just think about the hustle.
Mhm. And the
So
hustle doesn't always work, right? It doesn't work for,
no.
and when we started out, like, we've worked with different like marketing companies and done different like marketing strategies and things like this. And like, literally in the almost 2.5 years we've been doing this, we have circled back to exactly where we started, because we were in alignment with the mission, the vision, and the goal of the business when we started, right?
Wow.
But then you have coaches that like want to tweak you, and like they know that this framework works, so they have to make you fit this framework in order for what they're selling you to work for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the other thing, is like listening to your body and tapping into that intuition that you've got that says like, yes, this is the actual path for me. Yes, this is what works for me, but or no, it doesn't, right?
Right.
Like tapping into, so we originally had like two sets of offers. We have process offers because we do that really well, and then we had like leadership offers. And at
Okay.
some point it was like, okay, well, you need to change these and you need to make them for this, but then you need to merge them all together, and then you need blah 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 blah, right? And like they were trying to make us fit into what someone else had done that only made like that only did like process work, right? They only like put the foundational things in place for a business, but
Right.
didn't, go beyond that. And it's so much more than that. Like once
Yeah.
a foundation is great, like everyone's got to have that foundation, right? But it's like when you're ready to grow and you're ready to scale and you're ready to reach more and to serve more and to expand, you have to be able to have that inner alignment to do it and that inner work to do it. Because, like you said, the self sabotage is going to come up, the
Yeah.
imposter syndrome is going to come up. I'm working with someone right now who has 3 degrees. 3 degrees. She's getting ready to start her own business. And she's like, I don't know what to charge. I don't know what to, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know. I'm like, okay, like, let's break this down. Let's make it really simple, right? And let's
Mm.
get you out of this overwhelm state. Like, do you know what you're worth? Like, her background is in nursing. She's a nurse practitioner. I'm like,
Uh,
okay, what's your worth as a nurse? Like, do you know what you got paid as a nurse? Well, yeah. Okay. Well, then you start there, right? Like,
yeah.
you're
Seriously.
you're just making this pivot, like where you're not going to be technically offering like medical advice anymore, but you still have all of this background and all of this
Yeah.
knowledge. That doesn't
Yeah.
change, right? Like
Mm.
that does not change. Like just because someone else is no longer, and that's where we so often link like worth and value into how much money we're making. Because what do you do when you get out of school? You go and get a job, and you have someone that tells you you work this many hours, you make this much money, right? So that is what you're worth.
Yes.
And then when you get into the business for yourself, you're like, well, I don't know how much I'm worth. I was like,
Mhm.
okay, well, that's an easy, for me, it's easy to see, but it's like when you're in that job and you're working, whatever wage you were working for, whether it's hourly, salary, doesn't matter. But like, was that number in alignment for what you're doing? Did you feel good about what you made or not? It's as
Mhm.
simple as that. If you felt good about what you made then, start with that hourly rate, right?
Yeah.
And if
Ser
and if that feels scary, then take it down 10% until it doesn't feel scary, right? And then you
Mhm.
can slowly bump up from there. But it's like if you've got all of this experience, then she's like, well, I don't know how to get started. I'm like, honey, that's what I'm here for. Like, I'm here to help you. I see. I'm like, let me do what I'm good at, right? Like, let me help you put this structure in place. We'll start out slow and we'll build from there. And she's like,
Mhm.
yeah, but I don't know. I'm like, okay. She's like, I just get so overwhelmed. I was like, okay, you have 3 degrees, you have 3 children. You had one child when you already had 1 or 2 degrees. I don't remember at this point, but I was like, you had one child and you were pregnant with another child while you were going to school, while you were working full time. Yes. Yeah.
Listen.
I'm like, you can do anything. Like
Exactly.
anything. So it's just being able to paint that picture back to them and show them what's already there, right? It's just showing them what's already there inherently inside of themselves. And that's why I fucking love what I do, because it's like I get to help make it simple for you, because I can step out, right? Like I'm not in it. It's not my story. It's not my life. I'm not inside of it. So I get to step outside of it and I get to show you your greatness. I get to show you your brilliance and the things that you don't see in a way
Mhm.
that you don't see them. And that's what I
Yes.
love.
Yes. So I'm going to rewind it a little bit because even though you're doing all this work to actually help entrepreneurs to understand who they are and what their business is, their worth and everything. When did you discover your worth and who you are, and how did you know when you were ready to even branch out to help others?
So, man, those are great questions. So when did I know my worth? I think like our version and our vision of like what our worth is or what our worthiness is ever evolving. So I actually heard someone today, like, as soon as you stop tying your worth to the number that's in your bank account, things
Mm,
will things will and I'm like, how many coaches out there are telling people like your worth is linked to how much money you make, right? Especially in the spiritual holistic side of things. It's
mhm.
always like, well, if your bank account is low and it sucks, it's because you don't love yourself.
What?
Okay, let's call bullshit on that, right? Like you can love yourself and still like not be rocking it in your business because maybe you're not aligned, right? So like
Right,
for myself personally, it's been a beautiful journey of getting to love myself deeper and getting to step into like the ownership of me and who I am. And I mean, it's constantly evolving, right? Like because I'll tell you in 20, was it 22, like literally right after we'd started the business, I'd never even done an Instagram live before. And now I'm doing podcast interviews, right? I was
yes,
scared shitless. I was scared shitless to do that. So
man.
we were actually my best friend and I, business partner, we were at an event in Austin, Texas. It's called the Shift Experience. And for anyone who knows Aaron Dowdy, he's big in the like spiritual teacher
Yeah,
realm. You know
yeah,
Aaron?
yes.
Okay. So this was like his first in-person event, and I had purchased like his other 21 day whatever things that he had done before. And I was like, dude, it'd be so cool to go and do this in person. So you get like the breath work and you get like all the things, right? One of
Mhm.
the things was a vulnerability challenge. And there was a list of questions. And the first thing that everyone did, there's like 60 of us there probably. And everyone got to go through each item and rate them 1 to 10. Like, like, if one is like, no problem, could do this all day, every day. And 10 is like, I might die if I do this. And you
Mhm.
get to rate each thing, right? And then it's like categories of questions, or it's a number of questions fit into the categories, right? And so then they split us off into groups, and we got to go out into the wilds of Austin, Texas, and we had to complete so many of these things off of the list. And it's a vulnerability challenge, right? So like you got to pick your poison, you got to pick the things that you got to do, but you needed to stay between a window of like 7 to 10, right? Because 7
Right.
you're starting to get pretty uncomfortable. 10 is like I might die if I do this. That'd be like one of the things was like going into a Home Depot and like playing music and like dancing and singing in a Home Depot. And I'm like, hell no, maybe in like 17 years, but not now, right? So we got to do these super, super uncomfortable things. And
Man,
now, and that taught me like lean into resistance, lean into being vulnerable, lean into the things that you would rather, if you feel like you're pulling away from them, you lean into them. That's
yeah,
everything that it's like it's being seen, right? It's
right.
self-worth. It's like how am I showing up in the world and where am I afraid to show up because I'm afraid of judgment. And so now when I start to do something and it's like, ooh, I don't want to wear that outfit because I don't love the way that I look in it. Who fucking cares how you look in it, right?
Yeah,
Like if the clothes fit, like if it's comfortable and you're not like physically uncomfortable because you can't breathe or something, right? Like
right.
who cares?
That's
Like you
true.
don't love your body, but it's hot outside. So
Right.
I used to do this for the longest time. I would wear jeans all the time, even in the middle of summer, all the time. And then my ass moved to Florida, and I was like, "You gotta get over this because you are going to die. This is just not gonna work, right?" And so it's building another layer and another level of, like, comfortability with myself and self-acceptance, right? Are there people who probably look at me and are like, "Ooh." Are there people who look at me and like, "Damn, she is hot." Yeah, you get both, right? But, like, it's just personal preference of people, and, like, you're not for everyone. So I mean, it's just deepening like the things that make me feel uncomfortable, or the things that might make me feel judged. So one of the things in Austin was doing a live. And so there was like 4 or 5 of us who had never done a live before, and all of us were like, "Oh my gosh, I kind of feel like I wanna vomit." And so we decided to do a joint live. Like, my business partner, she's like, "I go live all the time, like, this is fine." She's like, "I'll record for you guys, like, give me your phones." So I, like, pull up my Instagram, give her my phone, and, like, the 4 or 5 of us go live. It was really quick, but it's
Wow.
also, like, building the muscle too.
It
So
is.
the more you lean into those uncomfortable things because you're afraid of being seen, or you're afraid of, like, whatever the thing is that you feel devalues you, lean into it a little bit. And then you can lean in a little bit more, and then a little bit more. And then you also cultivate this attitude of like, no fucks given, right? Like you just
Yeah.
don't care as much anymore. Like, whatever. Eh. And so that's been a big part of it for me, is like leaning into those things that make me feel uncomfortable, having those uncomfortable conversations. Like if I'm in a I just did this with my business partner earlier today. It was like having this conversation around communication that feels really uncomfortable, but if I don't speak up, it's I'm not valuing myself enough to advocate for my needs, or to at
Mhm.
least have the conversation, right? Like
Right.
it didn't go any way that I thought that it would go, and it never does. Like, it always ends up beautifully, right? But, like, I need to value myself enough that I advocate for what I need and say, "Okay, like, there was a miscommunication here. Like, let's talk about this and see, like, what happened." And it was beautiful, and it was perfect, and it was amazing, and we both felt I felt so much better. I'm sure she did too, but
Right.
and that's just what it is, like, just leaning in deeper to the things that make you love yourself more. And
Yeah.
it can be silly stuff, like, and I don't say silly like it's not important, but like it could be as simple as doing your hair or doing your makeup for the day, because if it makes you feel pretty, it makes you feel good, right?
Yeah.
So doing more things that make you feel good, as well as doing things that make you feel vulnerable, because then you're getting this balance too. And it's not like we like to talk about, like, shadow work, like diving deep, right? Like shadow work is diving deep into the depths of things to clear them out, like going live on Instagram, right? Like you have this fear of being seen. But then like what's the flip side, or what's like the fun side of this? What's the light side of this? And that's for some people that's like dance and play, and I get to move energy and clear these things in ways that are like scary, and I'm like ugly crying and there's snot everywhere. But then there's also the fun ways you get to do it, like playing with your dog or playing with your kids. So, I mean, that's the way that I value myself, is to show up for myself and to do the work, especially when it's scary and especially when I have the resistance to it. And the more I show up for myself and the more I say yes, I mean, I did a hypnotherapy session with someone a few weeks back, and, like, we did some inner child work with it. It was
Mhm.
beautiful, and, like, little me, to, like, solidify things in and let her know that, like, "Yes, I love you, and I'm here for you, and, I see you and I support you." She wanted me to go skip in the sunshine. I
What?
can't, as an adult, I can't make that up, right? I'd be like, "We're gonna
Right.
skip in the sunshine." Okay,
But
okay.
that's where you get a lot of your energy from too. Like being in touch with nature, you get a
Mhm.
lot of your energy, and like, I don't know, it just makes your body feel different.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain unless you actually feel it to experience it,
It's grounding, right?
Yeah,
So
it
if
is.
people look at it, it's like a way, if people are like, "Oh, energy, what's this?" And there's heavy energy and there's lighter energy, right? But if you go stick your feet in the grass, or you just go and be in the sunshine, like, you feel better because
Mhm.
you're moving energy that's not, like, serving you anymore. You're moving that denser, heavier stuff out of you, and then
Yeah.
you're replenishing.
Yes, you definitely
Yeah.
are.
I feel like
So
I didn't answer all of your questions, and that's all.
you good, you good. So what advice do you have for people who feel disconnected from their purpose or their passion in life?
I would say that you're exactly where you're meant to be all of the time. Whether your life is perfect and beautiful and wonderful and you're like, "Holy shit, I can't believe that I'm this lucky," or whether you're like, "Oh my god, like what has happened? Like how did I get myself into this position?" Like I can promise you that there's beauty and there's so much beauty and so much like grace and so much learning to be found in every experience, whether you feel super great about it or you feel super shitty about it. Like
Yeah.
there's something in there for you to learn. And so if it's not what you love and it's not like your ideal and your picture of like how everything's meant to be, like just keep moving and just keep looking for the lessons and looking for the opportunities for growth. And so if you feel like you're not um if you feel like you're not sure if this is your purpose or you're not sure what your purpose is, there's so many beautiful practices that you can do, and there's so many great things that you can do. You can do like what's automatic writing. So you just sit down with a pen. I used to hate doing this. You just sit down with a pen and paper and you just start writing, right? And literally, when I first started doing this, I was like, this is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard. So I'm like, I literally would write, like, this is fucking stupid. I don't know why I'm doing this. Da, 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 right. And I'd be bitching about it on paper. And then all of a sudden, stuff would start to come out. And I'm like, okay, I don't know where this is coming from, but it is, right?
Right.
That's divine alignment. That's divine guidance, right? Like, once you get yourself out of the way, then the juice can come through. And so you could or you make a list of all of the ways that you could make money or all of the ways that you feel like you could be doing your purpose work.
Mm-hmm.
And your purpose in this life, it could be to be a husband or to be a wife or to be a mother or to be a father. Like that could be your purpose. That could be your soul's whole intention in coming in. It has nothing to do with money, right?
Great at it too.
Yeah, exactly. And your purpose could be something so much not greater, not bigger, but so much different than that. Your purpose could be doing something that you do get paid to do, right? And it
Right.
and so I think a lot of times people try and link in purpose work to how do I get paid for this because it's how we're wired as society. So you can like to be a teacher, right? They're severely underpaid, but you know that being a teacher is a calling, right? Like the
Yes.
amount of shit you had, you know, because you run preschools and daycares, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
And you know that's a calling. That's not like no, not any Joe Schmo off the street can do that. Like,
No. it takes passion. For
yeah,
sure.
it does. So passion is one element of it, right? It's passion is one thing, but it's also like what gets you really excited? What
Yeah.
gets you really excited? And if you don't know, that's okay too. Because for a long time I was like, I don't know what fucking makes me happy. Like I've spent so much of my life dedicating to one path, like
Right.
school, 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 job from the school, right? Like, and now I'm like, well, I don't know what makes me happy.
Uh,
Okay, well, if you're in that case, no big deal, right?
yeah.
Take a look at your life. Like, take a look at the last couple of months of your life and pick out things that made you happy. Maybe it was walks in nature with your dog. Maybe it was going for a swim. Whatever the thing was, start to do more of that thing that makes you happy. Prioritize doing the thing that makes you happy. And then more things that make you happy, like, oh, I like to do this. Oh, I
Right.
like to do this. I want to try this, right? Like those types of things are going to start to come in. And then you're going to be able to see, like, like here, if you're telling the universe, ooh, I know what makes me happy. I'm going to do more things that make me happy. And then the universe is going to be like, oh, you want to be happy. Okay, let me give you more things that make you happy, right?
Yeah.
And then you're just going to be divinely guided to what makes you happy and then you could derive purpose from that, right?
Mhm.
I would also say that our purpose as beings on this planet is to be. Our purpose is here to be and to have this experience.
Yes.
Whether we feel it's good, it's bad, it's shitty, it's great, it's right, it's wrong, it's whatever. Like, our purpose is to be. Our purpose is to just have this human experience.
Yep. And you can have
That's
whatever
it.
you want.
Yeah. Dealer's choice, right? You get to make it
Yeah.
whatever you want to.
Yes. You know, it's so crazy just hearing you talk about this. And I don't know why it came to my mind, but I envisioned you having a huge retreat with a bunch of business owners, and all I see is a nice waterfall. I don't know where, but it's like you out in nature, trees, everything. Like it's a whole vibe. Okay. And that's what I see you doing. I don't know why, but I do. But it's going to be something big that you are going to do, because the way you bring so much to the table for business owners for them to identify who they are within is so important and it's so needed. So you having something so major that you do, I don't know if it's going to be yearly or what, but I could literally see you doing that, like seriously.
That's what we wanna do. Like, I've always wanted to do retreats, and I've always wanted to do things like that, right? Because I know
Yeah.
for me personally, I've always and I don't know if you've been to a lot of retreats or not, but, like, being able to be there and to be immersed with other people who want the same thing. You may not know exactly what you're trying to get out of it, right? But,
Yeah.
like, you're all collectively there to have this experience, and you're collectively there to, like, move yourself forward in some way. And
Yes.
to be able to facilitate and to, like, hold the space for things like that is, like, an absolute dream of mine, and to just
I can see it.
show people, like, how to move, right? Like, how to move for themselves, 'cause it's different for everyone, right? Like, some people love dancing, and they love to, like and we store so much in our bodies that dance is a wonderful medium to move
Yes,
things out of the
it
body.
is.
I can count on one hand the times that I remember dancing as a child.
Really?
0. Absolutely 0. I don't ever remember doing it as a kid, never.
Wow.
Maybe that's just 'cause I'm repressing something, I don't know.
Right.
But you do always see children, like, naturally dancing and bopping to music, right?
Yeah,
And
seriously.
so being able to be, like, in this open environment where you're able to, like, move and to be with nature, like, the first time someone told me to hug a tree, I'm like, "The
Like,
fuck are
what?
they smoking? Like, why would I go hug a tree?" But I can tell you, I was going through a dark night of the soul one time that was, like, it was so rough, and thank God I knew what it was because I was like, "Okay, I know this will pass. I know I'm not crazy. I know this will pass. How the fuck do I get through it? Like, how do I get through?"
Really?
I'm talking to one of my mentors, and I'm like, "Holly, what do I do? What do I do?" And she's like, "Okay, like, try and move some energy, like, physically move your body." I was gonna go for a run, my hamstring, like, locked up.
Oh,
Never had that issue before, and I'm like, "Okay, so running's not the answer, like, what do I do?" I'm, like, messaging her while I'm trying to stretch it out so I can go run, and it's, like, not it's just not. And she's like, "Girl, you gotta feel it." And I'm like, "I don't wanna
mhm.
feel it." But that's the point, right? Like, you gotta feel it. But I'm, like,
Yeah.
outside, she's like, "Okay, go outside and, like, try and do some jumping jacks, like, you do some jumping jacks to try and move energy." So I go and do some jumping jacks, and I feel better. Not 5 minutes goes by, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like, I can't, like, we're not there yet. We are not there yet." So I'm like, I'm writing letters, like angry letters of shit that I want to say to people that I haven't said, right? Not to mail them, but just to get it out of my system. And then I go and burn
Yeah.
them, right? I'm doing jumping jacks. I'm writing and burning letters. She's like, cry or scream into a pillow. She's like, just try screaming. And I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, yeah, just do it. I'm like, okay, okay, I'll try anything at this point. So I'm like taking a pillow into the backyard. I remember this vividly, like into this back corner of the backyard, trying to like not have anyone hear me do this.
Right.
Pillow up to my face, like scream.
Oh man, probably screamed your life away, did you?
And then, not really. It's actually not one of my things, like, which is kind of weird because some people like get a lot from it. Like I'm usually like 3 screams when I'm done. Like I'm like, okay, we're
Yay.
good. And I would love for that to be like a very cathartic thing for me, but right now it's just that. But I'm like crying and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna go hug a tree. I'm just gonna go do it. So I like go outside and I'm like looking up at this tree, like I'm like the tree is God and I'm having a conversation with God, right? And I'm just like, okay, like I just need you to help me. I don't know what I need, but I need this to be done, and I just need your help right now. And I'm just like tears are streaming, and I'm just having this conversation, and then I'm just like hugging this tree. It was much bigger than that, but I'm just like trying to hug this tree, right? And I'm like talking up and
Yeah.
crying and that was the only thing that got it to move for me.
Wow.
Literally, that was the only thing that got it to move for me. And I
Wow.
was finally like, "Whew, whew." But it was like 2 to 3 days, like, back to back, like, I'd have a little bit of relief here and there, but
Mhm.
for the most part, I was just, like, in it to win it, man, and not in a good way.
Wow. That is amazing though. Just
Mhm.
for even just go through that process and just overcome it. Cause man, if you didn't have that outlet for someone to actually guide you and help you and tell you that, you would probably still be stuck.
Yeah, yeah, and this is, like I don't know how much time we have left, but I'm like, this is the thing that I personally feel about like mental health and what they consider like disease, mental disease, and things like this, like so many of these things, I think it's truly like our soul is like screaming out and we're having some sort of like dark night of the soul experience.
Yeah.
But we don't know that that's what it is and we don't know how to navigate
Yeah.
it. And so, like, big pharma and doctors will just be like, "Oh, you're just crazy, or you're just depressed, or you're just like,
It's
here,
a
just take this
skill.
you just have
Yep.
anxiety, like, here, take this, take
Yep.
this, take some Xanax, take with whatever, right? Like, we'll just put you on this for 3 months and see if that takes care of it, right?" And it's like, that's for
No.
some people, it's helpful in the moment, and I get that, but there's so much more and so much deeper, and then learning all of this,
You have
then
to
at one point you have
you
to
you
what?
you have to face it, you know? Because it's like when you're taking a pill, the pill, it may help you, but it's covering up what's the root of what's really wrong with you and it's voiding you from actually facing reality.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like, okay, let me take this to forget about it. And then when
Mhm.
it come back again, I'm gonna just take another one. No,
Yep, exactly.
how about taking yourself in and doing some root work to even figure yourself out, just to
Yeah,
do that. So it takes a lot though. It do.
yeah. And I
It
think, like I think back now and I'm like, how many times in my life did I have these, like, we'll call them episodes or experiences where I'm like, "That was a dark night of a soul," right? And that was my soul, like, screaming out of, like, "Hear me, see me, like,
yeah.
work on your shit, woman." And I just I didn't know what I didn't know. And I
Wow.
think, like and all of that, it ties in so perfectly, like, business ownership, being an entrepreneur, that's like one dark night of the soul after another, like, you got opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to look at your shit and work on yourself, right?
For real. Yeah. So for someone to be able to get the help that they need, because a lot of people don't run into people like you. So how can they contact you for them to basically seek out for your services for you to help them just
Yeah,
get it themselves in their business?
I'll give you a couple different avenues. The website, which our website's not it's not super stellar, like, we don't really use it a whole lot, but the website is transformativeleadershipllc.com. My email is julie@transformativeleadershipllc.com, or you can always find me on LinkedIn, Julie Tritch, and then my Instagram is, I think it's like julie.tritch33. So any of those, or on Facebook, like, find me, and I'm more than happy to have a conversation with anyone on, like, even if they're not like a good fit to be a client, or even if they're like not in a space where they're ready to take on someone as a coach or a mentor or anything like that, like I'm still always super happy to like help make connections and offer, you know, whatever advice that I can, or whatever guidance that I can in the moment. Like just little things, right? Like God
Right.
only knows like what one thing someone might have picked up from this one conversation that could be the thing that like really helps them break through, right?
Right. Definitely. So as we leave here tonight, what is some advice that you can give a business owner?
What I would tell a business owner, I would tell them two things. Number one, keep going. Like no matter how difficult it is, like just keep going and trust yourself. Like
Yes.
just fucking trust yourself, because whatever your gut is telling you, whatever your heart is telling you, what your body is telling you, like it doesn't lie, right? Like your body is not lying to you. Your intuition is not lying to you. So trust it. If there's some like fucking guru out there that's like, yeah, this is the strategy to follow. If
Mm-hmm.
it's not in alignment with you and who you are, especially if you're like a very spiritual person, and if you have a spiritual based business, a lot of these things aren't going to work. Like they're just not going to work for you. And I'm not saying that to try and like put that in anyone's head, but like we've tried so many different things that just don't work for us, and we've had so many different people try and tell us like, oh, do this works, do this works, blah, 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 blah. Like, right, like
Right.
post this number of times a day and like make your content look like this and da, 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 and all these things, right? And I'm like, that feels disgusting for me. Like if it feels gross to you, it is gross to you, and just don't do it.
Yeah.
Just don't do it.
Yeah. It's about you.
Exactly. Because when it's in alignment, like the people for you and what's right for your business, like the people to support you in your business will come in. The clients that you're looking to serve will come in. Like they will find you.
Yes, they
As
will.
long as you are true to yourself and you're doing what's in alignment for you,
So I'll say,
the universe is just gonna keep up. Oh, that, yeah, you want more?
yeah,
Okay, yeah, yeah.
that is so true. Oh man. Well, thank you, Julie, so much. I really enjoyed this conversation. I just enjoy you, period. Like so I really enjoyed you, and thank you for coming on my podcast show. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. Us Midwest girls gotta stick together.
You know it. That's so true. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in to Life Her Podcast, where we help business owners, we drop gems, we do everything in spiritual cleanse. Thank you and have a good night.
Welcome to Life Her Podcast, the podcast that guides you from the 9 to 5 grind to the freedom of your own path. Discover how to conquer life's challenges while pursuing your passions with unwavering faith. Because being an entrepreneur is not easy. So let's get to it.